The alien girl stood near the door on her first day. She was smaller than the other students. Her skin was light blue, and her eyes were large and quiet. Her hair was soft purple and cut unevenly. She held her bag with both hands as if it was the only safe thing she had. The classroom was full of noise. Different species talked loudly. Some floated slightly above their chairs. Some had metal arms, some had sharp teeth. But when the alien girl stepped inside, the noise changed. Laughter spread across the room. Not happy laughter, cruel laughter. One student whispered something, and others copied it. They repeated her name in a strange voice. The alien girl did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. She walked slowly to an empty seat in the back. Her feet were not used to the gravity. She almost fell but caught herself. More laughter followed. No one helped her. The teacher watched from the front. He was human, tall, and calm. He had kind eyes but a tired face. He had seen this before. New students always suffered. The rules said he must not interfere. The lesson began. The teacher spoke about shared history, about peace between species, about learning together. But the words felt empty in that room when the alien girl was asked to read. Her voice shook. The language was hard for her. She spoke slowly. She made mistakes. The laughter returned stronger. Someone threw a small piece of paper. It hit her shoulder. She flinched but did not look back. She kept reading until her voice broke. The teacher felt something twist inside him, but he stayed silent. During break time, students gathered in groups, sharing food and stories. The alien girl sat alone. She opened a small container. Inside was plain nutrient paste. Someone pointed and laughed again. She lowered her head and pretended not to hear. She took out a small notebook instead. Inside it were drawings, perfect circles, lines crossing in careful patterns. She drew slowly, as if the drawing was important. The human teacher noticed this from across the room. He did not know why, but the drawings caught his attention. They were too clean, too exact, not like a child's drawing. The bell rang. Students rushed out, pushing past her. Someone bumped her chair on purpose. She almost fell again. No one apologized. The teacher watched as she packed her bag. Her hands were shaking. There were small marks on her wrists. Old marks, not fresh. His jaw tightened. After class, she was the last to leave. The hallway was long and loud. She walked alone again, her steps careful. The teacher remained in the room. The rules echoed in his mind. No protection, no interference. Pain builds strength. That was what the galaxy believed. But as he looked at the empty seat in the back, he felt something was wrong, very wrong. The alien girl stopped at the door and looked back. Just for a moment, her eyes met the teacher's. They were not angry, not even sad. They were tired. She turned and left. And the teacher realized something important. The galaxy believed the weak must adapt. But humans believed something else, that no child should suffer alone. And though he said nothing that day, though he followed the rule, a quiet decision began to form inside him, because ignoring pain was also a choice, and soon he would have to choose. The next day felt heavier in the classroom. The alien girl arrived early and sat in the same back seat. She kept her eyes down and her hands folded. The room slowly filled with noise again. Whispers followed her like shadows. Some students had planned things overnight. They passed looks and quiet signals. They waited for the lesson to start. They enjoyed the waiting. The teacher began the class as usual. He wrote symbols on the board. He spoke about cooperation between species. But his voice sounded distant even to himself. His eyes kept moving back to the last row. The alien girl tried to focus, but her ears picked up every sound. A chair scraped too close behind her. A laugh came when she dropped her pencil. Someone kicked her bag under the desk. She bent down to get it. Her face turned red with shame. When she stood again, her eyes looked wet, but she did not cry. The rule board on the wall glowed softly. Galactic education law: observe, but do not protect. Let hierarchy teach survival. The teacher glanced at it. His chest felt tight. During group work, No one chose the alien girl. Groups formed fast and loud. Leaving her alone again, she stood there unsure. Until the teacher quietly told her to sit and work alone. She nodded and returned to her seat. She opened her notebook again. This time she did not draw circles. She wrote symbols. Old symbols from her people. Symbols she had been taught to hide across the room. 2 students watched her closely. They leaned together and laughed. One of them stood up and walked past her desk. His arm brushed her notebook. The pages fell open. Everyone saw the symbols. Strange lines, perfect shapes, nothing like schoolwork. The room went silent for 1 second. Then laughter exploded. They called it nonsense. They called it alien trash. Someone shouted that her people were erased for a reason. The words hit harder than hands. The alien girl froze. The teacher stepped forward without thinking, then stopped himself. The rule burned in his mind. He clenched his fists. His feet felt heavy. The alien girl slowly closed her notebook. Her fingers trembled. She stood up from her seat. Her chair fell back loudly. The sound echoed. Everyone watched her now, waiting for tears, waiting for fear. But she did not run. She spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. She said her people were not weak. They were careful. They believed knowledge was dangerous in cruel hands. That was why they hid it. More laughter followed. Someone clapped in mock respect. Someone else bowed. The room turned cruel again. The teacher finally raised his voice. Just enough to end the noise. He told everyone to sit. His tone was sharp, but controlled. That small act already pushed the edge of the rule. Other teachers watched through the glass wall. They exchanged looks during the break. The alien girl did not go to the hall. She stayed at her desk. She rested her head on her arms. Her shoulders moved slightly, but no sound came. The teacher stood near the window. He watched the city outside, flying vehicles, tall towers, a proud galaxy built on power. He remembered human schools. He remembered teachers who stepped in. He remembered children being protected, not tested. When the bell rang, the alien girl stood slowly. She looked weaker than before, but something had changed. Her eyes were no longer empty. They were guarded. As she left the room, the teacher noticed the rule board flicker softly. As if reacting to his thoughts, he understood then. The rule did not silence cruelty. It protected it, and the cost was paid. By children. That night, the teacher stayed awake, thinking about lines and circles, about erased civilizations, about silence, and he knew the next time cruelty crossed the line, he would not stay still, even if the galaxy was watching. Asterisk. The 3rd day began with tension in the air. The alien girl arrived later than usual. Her steps were slower, her shoulders slightly bent, as if the building itself felt heavier. She sat in her usual seat, but this time she did not open her notebook. Her hands stayed on her lap, her eyes fixed on the desk. The classroom filled again. Voices loud, energy sharp. Some students glanced at her and smiled in a way that was not kind. The teacher noticed immediately. Something was different. Not fear, but distance. The lesson started. Numbers and symbols filled the board. The topic was energy flow between systems. A basic lesson, simple for most species. The teacher asked a question. No one answered at first. Then one confident student stood and spoke loudly. He gave a half-correct answer. The teacher nodded politely. Then something unexpected happened. The alien girl raised her hand. The room froze. A few laughs escaped before they were stopped by. Surprise, the teacher turned slowly. He nodded for her to speak. She stood up carefully. Her voice was soft, but steady. She corrected the answer, not just corrected it, she expanded it. She explained energy loss, balance, and hidden pathways no one mentioned. The classroom was silent. Even the laughing students stared. The teacher felt his breath catch. Her explanation was advanced, far beyond the lesson plan, far beyond her age. Student laughed suddenly, saying she memorized something by luck. Another said she cheated. The noise returned. The alien girl stopped speaking. She sat down slowly, her face calm. But her hands shook under the desk. The teacher asked her to stay after class. Just those words, nothing more. The rule allowed questions, so no one objected. When the bell rang, students rushed out again. Some threw looks back at her, some whispered. She stayed seated, waiting. The teacher closed the door gently. He asked her where she learned that knowledge. She hesitated. Her eyes moved to the walls, to the rule board. She said her people taught children early, because they believed ignorance was dangerous. She said her race was erased because others feared what they knew. The teacher asked about the drawings, the circles, the lines. She opened her notebook slowly, this time without fear. She showed him layered designs, energy maps, systems that folded into themselves. Safe power, clean power. The teacher realized. Then, these were not drawings. They were solutions. She told him her people hid knowledge inside art, inside patterns, so only those who cared enough would see it. She said the bullying made it harder to remember. Pain distracted the mind. Fear damaged focus. The teacher felt shame rise inside him. Not personal shame, but human shame. For watching and doing nothing. Outside the door, two teachers stood quietly, listening through the glass, their expressions serious. The alien girl asked a question then, a simple one. Why humans allowed cruelty in learning? The teacher had no perfect answer. He said humans once believed the same wrong things, that strength came from pain, but they learned otherwise. She looked at him closely, as if measuring truth. When she left the room, the teacher stayed behind. Staring at the board, he understood now. The galaxy had silenced entire civilizations, calling it education, calling it balance. And a child carried the proof of that mistake in her hands. Later that day, the teacher received a warning message. Observation flagged. Unusual interaction detected. He did not delete it. He looked at the empty classroom, at the back seat, at the invisible weight placed on one small student. And for the first time, he did not ask himself if breaking the rule was dangerous. He asked himself what would happen if he did not. The fourth day began with an uneasy silence. The alien girl entered the classroom and paused at the door. She sensed it before she saw it. Eyes followed her. Not curious eyes, calculating ones. She walked to her seat slowly. Her notebook was held close to her chest, as if it was fragile, as if it could be taken away. The teacher noticed the tension right away. He felt it like pressure in the air, the kind that comes before a storm. He started the lesson early, hoping to keep things calm, but calm did not last. During the first activity, a student in the middle row stood up. He spoke loudly. He accused the alien girl of lying. He said her knowledge was stolen, that she was pretending to be smart. Others joined in, voices overlapping, mocking her words. From the day before, twisting them into jokes, the alien girl stayed silent, her eyes lowered, her fingers pressed into the edge of the desk, her breathing shallow. The teacher raised his hand. The noise slowed but did not stop. He felt the rule press against his thoughts. Observe, do not protect. Then it happened. A student reached out and grabbed the alien girl's notebook. The pages opened as it was pulled away. Symbols spilled into the air, energy maps, hidden designs. Laughter exploded. Someone tore a page. Another crumpled it. The alien girl stood up suddenly. Her chair fell back. Her face went pale. She reached out with shaking hands. Something inside her broke. Her voice came out sharp, not loud, but filled with pain. She begged them to stop. Just one word. Please. That word hit the teacher harder than any alarm. He moved. He crossed the room in 3 steps. He stood between her and the others, his body blocking her from view. His hand rested on her shoulder. The room froze. The rule board on the wall flashed red. Violation detected. Unauthorized. Physical contact. Security drones activated. Lights shifted. A low hum filled the air. Students stared in shock. No one laughed now. The teacher spoke calmly, but his voice carried weight. He said this was a classroom, not a battlefield. He said knowledge was not a crime, and cruelty was not learning. The drones moved closer, recording everything. The alien girl stood behind him, her hands gripping his sleeve. She felt small. But for the first time, she did not feel alone. Other teachers rushed to the doorway. Fear and disbelief on their faces. They whispered warnings. They signaled him to step away. He did not. He spoke again. He said human schools existed to protect children, that pain did not create wisdom, only silence. The lead drone issued a command, step away or face removal. The teacher looked down at the alien girl. Her eyes were wide, not afraid of punishment. Afraid of being left again, he made his choice. He told the drone no, one simple word. Gasps filled the room. The drone paused. Processing human defiance, the teacher continued. He said if the galaxy wanted progress, it had to stop breaking children. First, the alarm shut off suddenly. The room fell into stunned silence. Later that day, the teacher was escorted out of the school, not in chains, but under watch. The alien girl stood by the window, watching him leave, her chest tight. That night, reports spread across the system. Human educator breaks galactic law. Classroom incident under review. And deep inside the data streams, the alien girl's torn pages were flagged, not as trash but as classified material. The galaxy had noticed, and nothing would be the same again. The fifth day did not begin in the classroom. It began in a chamber far above the planet, a room of glass and light, where voices from many worlds gathered. The Galactic Education Council had been called, not for war, not for trade, but for a human teacher and one alien child. Screens showed the classroom footage, the moment the teacher stepped forward. The hand on the girl's shoulder, the alarms, the defiance. Some council members were angry. They spoke of rules and balance, of order. They called the teacher reckless. Others were silent, watching the alien girl's face in the recording. Her fear, her relief. The teacher stood alone in the center of the chamber. No restraints, no weapons, only his voice. He was asked why he broke the rule. He answered simply, because a child was being hurt. The council pressed him. Pain builds strength, they said. Hierarchy creates order. Interference weakens adaptation. The teacher listened, and spoke of Earth, of human history, of mistakes made, of lessons learned through suffering, not forced on children, but ended. When understood, he said humans learned that cruelty does not teach strength. It teaches fear. It teaches silence. On another screen, the alien girl waited in a quiet room, 2 observers nearby. She held her notebook close, its torn pages carefully. Saved, she was asked to speak. Her image filled the chamber. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. She said her people once built worlds that never starved, never burned, never poisoned their skies. She said they believed kindness protected knowledge, cruelty destroyed it. She said when her people were erased, their knowledge was scattered and buried, because others feared what they could not control. The council murmured. Some shifted uncomfortably. She explained the drawings. The circles, the patterns, they were energy systems. Safe, clean, endless. The chamber went silent. Experts leaned forward. Data streams exploded with calculations. The symbols matched lost theories, impossible equations solved. The council realized the truth. The alien girl was not slow, not broken. She was carrying a lost future. A future nearly crushed by laughter in a classroom. Attention turned back. To the teacher, he stood still, waiting. One council member asked him a final question. If he knew the cost of his defiance, he said yes. And he would do it again. The council withdrew to deliberate. Hours passed. The galaxy waited. During that time, the alien girl sat alone, thinking of her home, thinking of circles drawn in secret, thinking of hands that protected instead of pushed. Finally, the council returned. Their decision shocked many worlds. The human teacher was cleared, not because of power, but because of principle. More than that, the Galactic Education Law was suspended. Pending review, the chamber erupted. Some celebrated, some protested. The alien girl felt something unfamiliar. Hope. She was moved to a protected learning center, where no one laughed, where questions were welcomed. The teacher was offered a new role, advisor to the council. But the most important change did not appear in laws or titles. Across the galaxy, schools began to watch their classrooms differently. Teachers began to step forward, and children like the alien girl, once ignored, once silenced, were finally seen. The sixth part began quietly, no alarms, no shouting, just change moving slowly across the galaxy. The alien girl woke up in a new place, a small room filled with soft light. No sharp sounds, no watching eyes. She sat up slowly, unsure if this was real. For the first time in many cycles, she did not feel afraid to stand. The learning center was different. Students of many species worked together. No one laughed at mistakes. No one grabbed notebooks. Teachers walked freely between desks, helping, guiding, protecting. The alien girl chose a seat near the window. She opened her notebook without hiding it. Her hands no longer shook. Across the system, news spread fast. A human teacher had changed the rules, not with force, but with care. Some worlds resisted. They said kindness was weakness, that protection created dependence. But others listened. They remembered lost children, lost civilizations. The council released parts of the alien girl's knowledge, carefully, slowly, energy systems that healed planets, that cleaned poisoned skies, that fed cities without harm. The galaxy called it a miracle. The alien girl called it memory. She worked with scientists and teachers, explaining symbols she once drew in silence. Circles became power, lines became light. Still, she remained a child. She laughed quietly now. She asked questions, she learned human stories. The teacher visited often, no longer just a teacher, but still human. Still calm, he never treated her like a symbol, only like a student. One day, she asked him why he stood in front of her that day, why he chose punishment over silence. He answered simply, because humans learned that doing nothing can be the worst harm. She thought about that for a long time. Back at the old school, things had changed. The students who once laughed now sat quietly. Rules were written on the wall. Protection is not interference. Kindness is not weakness. Some students felt shame, others felt confusion, but all felt watched. Not by drones, by responsibility. Years passed, the alien girl grew. Her knowledge shaped new systems, new alliances, new trust between worlds. She spoke before councils, but never forgot the backseat in the classroom, never forgot the sound of laughter. She used that memory carefully, as a warning, as a guide. The human teacher aged. His hair turned gray, but his eyes stayed the same. On his final day of teaching, the alien girl stood beside him. No longer small, no longer ignored, she addressed the room. She said the galaxy once believed strength came from pain, but learned it came from protection. She said humans were not feared because they were violent, but respected because they chose compassion. When the ceremony ended, the teacher smiled. Softly, that night, across many worlds, children slept safer, teachers stepped in sooner, and in quiet rooms, new notebooks opened, filled with ideas that would not be crushed. The alien girl looked up at the stars. She drew one last circle in her notebook, not to hide knowledge, but to share it, and the galaxy at last listened.